It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game.
Come on! What's up, Bobo?
Trades are hard.
Oh, who cares? He was not a great president.
Oh, thank God it's Friday. You made it. I'm so proud of you. I'm so damn proud of you for making it to this point. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Pregame Show. Joe Spadoni, you got me for the next hour right here on 95.7 The Game. And good morning to all of you just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school, getting ready for the weekend because you did make it. And, you know, we got football. We got 2 games tomorrow, 2 games on Sunday, 10 on Monday. Yeah, it's not Monday Night NFL football, but it's Monday Night football nonetheless. We got Ohio State, Notre Dame for the national championship. So the next 3 days, yeah, I'll be locked and loaded with football. And I think we've kind of slept on it the last few days. Warriors and doom and gloom, I get it. We're the home of the Golden State Warriors, and they'll be playing tomorrow against the Washington Wizards. But I want to dive into some of these matchups today. And I want to dive into some 49ers talk because we had the great Greg Cosell on a couple days ago. I think it got kind of lost in the shuffle. That doesn't happen often. It just speaks to the Golden State Warriors and how much they have a chokehold on this area right now when it comes to content. Because they're up, they're down, they're in the middle. We don't know what to make of them. Steph Curry's comments, Draymond Green's comments, Steve Kerr's comments, Twitter fingers comments, everything. So we've been all Warriors. Let's shift a little bit to the football today. How about that? Is that a good change of pace for people? And if you still want to talk Dubs, the phone lines are open. Ask me a question. 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or text. And also, you can hit me up via Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. We are streaming live on those platforms, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. So go ahead, search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe there. All right? All right. Greg Cosell, our 95.7 The Game NFL insider. Guy does the NFL matchup on ESPN. One of the best in the business when it comes to breaking down the film. It's him and Brian Baldinger. Oh, yeah. We got both of them every single week right here on 95.7 The Game. So, really, not only do we dominate the coverage of basketball, but football, we got the 2 best in the business when it comes to the X's and the O's. And no, not the song. Greg Cosell joined Will and Dibs a couple days ago, and we're going to listen to it because he had a lot of good stuff to say. And we're going to react to it, and we're going to dive into Texans, Chiefs, Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles, Ravens, Bills after that. But without further ado, Greg Cosell joining Willard and Dibs earlier this week.
You know what? This is not where I was going to start, but I just saw it, and I wanted to run it by you and see what you thought. This is a quote that The Athletic just put out from an unnamed Super Bowl winning executive. Okay? An unnamed Super Bowl winning executive talking about Kyle Shanahan, who has taken his fair share of criticism this year after a 6-11 season. He said, quote, "Within the coaches in the league, no one thinks any less of Kyle Shanahan. It's ludicrous to think they should get rid of him. Andy Reid had the same criticisms early in his career, and now he's clearly in the conversation for best ever. Kyle Shanahan's criticisms are that he's lost a couple of Super Bowls. Do you know how hard it is to get to the Super Bowl? If you throw rocks at Kyle Shanahan and want him fired, he's going to have a job in 30 seconds. What's your reaction to that quote?
I agree 1,000%. I don't see, to me, that's not even a question. Like, I don't even think that would be, and based on the specific nature of that quote, I'm sure you were reading it word for word, correct?
Yep, word for word.
Basically, if you just take the tone of the quote, the guy's saying that anybody who thinks otherwise really knows nothing about football. That's the tone of the quote. And I would agree with that 1,000%.
When you look at what we saw from the tape this year, forget Kyle Shanahan for just a moment, but defensively, now that they're looking for a new coordinator, is it a scheme thing that you saw on tape, or was it more just execution defensively that allowed them to struggle at times, especially in fourth quarters?
Well, I would answer that, and I may have discussed that when you were not on, toward the end of the year for those 2 weeks. I think that becomes a philosophy thing, and there's no right answer other than if you don't believe something is working, you might want to make a change, because clearly this year they chose to be a team that hardly ever pressured quarterbacks. They were a very low percentage blitz team. Now, again, we've seen in the past Fred Warner be a really, really good blitzer, adding in as the fifth pass rusher. We've seen that. I remember doing pieces for years in the matchup show where we showed 5-man pressures, and Warner was part of the pressures, and they were successful. This year, they were a very low percentage pressure team by NFL standards. So they relied pretty much exclusively on their 4-man D-line pass rush, and they relied on coverage with 7 in coverage. You can make the argument that, hey, that didn't work as well as they had hoped. I'm sure that's one reason that Sorensen is no longer the D coordinator. So now it comes down to philosophy, because you can be good any number of ways. You just have to decide what you think is the best way to play with your personnel. And they obviously believe that since what happened this year didn't quite work out the way they hoped, that there's going to be a change.
Greg, I think a lot of people have been, I know I have been, looking forward to talking to you after round 1 of the playoffs and 3 specific quarterback performances that people thought were below par, to ask what you saw. Let's start with Justin Herbert. And I know that at least 1, probably 2, maybe even 3 of the interceptions weren't really on him, or maybe I'm wrong. What did you see with his performance, and was it out of character?
Well, and I would say that, number one, their O-line got manhandled in the game, and he was under significant duress throughout the game. Number two, which probably should be number one, they couldn't run the ball at all, and they were a team with Greg Roman as the OC, and you guys are familiar with Greg Roman because he was there with Harbaugh. I think he was the OC when they went to the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Back in, the one in New Orleans, I believe, where the game was paused due to whatever. You remember that.
Yeah, power outage. Yeah, the Harbaugh Bowl.
Yeah. But anyway, the point is they're a run-first football team in the way they play offense. And you know that in any number of ways, not only by their run-pass ratio, but by the fact that they use a converted D-end as a fullback. So they couldn't run the ball at all. So their whole offensive identity changed pretty quickly in that game, and their O-line was overmatched, which probably surprised many because they have the left tackle Slater, who's a good player, the rookie right tackle Alto had a solid year, but both those guys struggled all game, as did the interior of their O-line. So Herbert was under duress much of the game. So yes, did he play his best game? No. It's funny. You guys didn't do this, but obviously, I'm aware of what people say. I don't spend a ton of time listening to everybody, but I love the way people evaluate quarterbacks based on these games as if, let's just get rid of him and move on and get someone else. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's as if they think there's a quarterback store and you just go get another quarterback.
Well, sure. No, and Herbert and Jordan Love, I mean, look, they're signed up. They've had good years. They're talented. There is an interesting conversation, I think, around Sam Darnold. Not because he didn't have a good year suddenly. He did. But because we know who he was prior to this year, because he's a free agent, not signed up, that one maybe is a little bit different, in my opinion. What do you think of what you saw him do on Monday night?
Here's what I would say. I would say in the Lions game 2 weeks ago that he missed far too many throws that we've seen him make all year. He just missed them, okay? But I would say in this game, this past week, he had no chance. He was under ridiculous duress the entire game. I spoke last week on a number of things I did that I thought that the key matchup in that game was going to be the Rams' defensive front versus the Vikings' O-line, which is not very good in pass protection. And I thought that was going to be the deciding factor in the game, and it was. So this game, to me, was not on Sam Darnold. Obviously he threw a pick that was, and by the way, his arm was hit. He couldn't follow through on that, so that wasn't even his fault. But so I didn't view this game watching the tape as, oh my God, boy, Sam Darnold was bad. The week before, he missed a number of throws. This game, they were just so significantly overmatched up front that I think there's probably 4 quarterbacks in the league that could have played really well in this game, and we know which 4 those are. So, yeah, so this wasn't to me a Sam Darnold game, but that's the perception, and that's what I'm hearing all week. Oh, well, this is Sam Darnold's back being Sam Darnold, and those kinds of comments to me when you say something like that, and I hope you guys aren't the ones who are saying that, because to me, when I hear that, I just think, these guys, they just don't know football, and they're just saying stuff. It's like the guys who make these bold declarations Monday morning at 8 a.m. on the East Coast, of course, all they've done is watch the game on TV. You can't tell watching the game on TV what really happened.
Yeah, you got to watch the film, Greg, like you and I, and get really deep into the all-22. Taking that thought forward with the Ram defensive line, and Mark and I were talking before the show about how good this Ram defense has been over the last month. What do you see on tape from the Rams defense that can maybe not stop Saquon and Jalen in Philadelphia, but maybe slow them a little bit and make it uncomfortable?
Yeah, now this is a little different animal, okay? Because the Eagles have a great D-line, and the strength of it's great O-line, and the strength of the Rams D-line is really their pass rush, okay? It's young, it's Verse. Verse may be the best speed-to-power rusher in the league as a rookie. And then they have Fisk and Turner inside. That's their sort of NASCAR pass rush D-line. That's not the D-line that plays when they're in their base defense. Then they try to put bigger people in who can stop the run. Because both Fisk and Turner are probably under 300 or right around 300. They're not big guys relative to normal D tackles in the league. So this particular matchup is a totally different animal than the one from last week. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Eagles do, how they choose to run the ball. Do they choose to run the ball with 2 tight ends and see if the Rams play their base D, or will they choose to run the ball out of 11 personnel, meaning 3 wide receivers on the field, and maybe they get the Rams pass rush unit on the field, but it's a lighter group and not as strong against the run. So, yeah, this game is nothing like, matchup-wise, like the Rams D-line against the Vikings O-line.
Greg Cosell, NFL Films, with us every single week throughout the season on Willard and Dibs. Greg, I was with you last week. I am a big fan of the Broncos defense, and I was surprised at how easily or how well the Bills controlled the line of scrimmage in that football game, and it has me pretty high on the Bills going forward. But what was your take on the way that one played out, and what does it mean for the Bills going forward?
Yeah, that was a surprise, I think, because I think that the D-line for the Broncos had played well all year. Their defense had played well all year. But the Bills clearly felt, based on their film study, that they could come out and run the ball. They could line up with 6 O-line personnel, which they've done more than any team in the league by a wide margin. And they did that in this game, and they ran on first down. Cook had 13 for 78 in the first half. 9 of those 13 runs came on first down. So their game plan was clearly to run the ball, whether the Broncos were in their base defense or their nickel defense. They played 10 snaps with 6 O-linemen in the first half. 8 of those were runs. They clearly believed in their game planning, film study, everything that goes into that process, that they could line up and physically beat that Broncos defensive front, and they did. And I think that surprised a lot of people. Now, having said that, looking forward, that Ravens defensive front is big. That is one of the biggest defensive fronts in the league, and it's tough to move them. So I'm going to be very intrigued to see if the Bills take the same approach. The other factor in this game is they were playing a Broncos offense that they probably felt was not going to put up 30 points. So they probably felt that they could be patient. They could play the kind of game that they did and just kind of gradually pull away and win fairly handily. But it took the second half for that to happen. What kind of game will they feel this one will be? In other words, will they feel that they have to score more points early and make it more of a Josh Allen game? And I think that's one of the most intriguing elements of this game.
And how does the Buffalo run defense stack up against the number one rush offense in football in the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, that's going to be a tough deal. They're a really difficult offense to play against. The run game is really hard because of both Lamar and Derrick Henry. The pass game, Lamar has been phenomenal this year. So they're a really hard offense to play against. I think that the Bills secondary, is probably not a great secondary overall. Now, Sean McDermott's been doing this a long time, and someone who's a lot smarter than I am, Bill Belichick, I heard him talk about Sean McDermott and how he does little things, little wrinkles that can be difficult for offenses to, things that unless you really know, he knows more than I do, obviously, so I think that stuff's going to have to happen in this game for them to have a chance. And their D-line is going to have to play great. Their D-line is going to have to really play at a super high level because that run game, it's hard in multiple ways. It's hard physically, and it's also hard schematically.
I'm also interested, both of the other games, quite frankly. I mean, Kansas City, we've talked so much about how there's the people we all know in Mahomes and Kelsey, but that team also has one of the best defenses.
They sure do.
Right in the NFL, and now rested and home and all of these things. What did Houston do in their somewhat surprising game against the Chargers that would carry over, if anything?
Well, Houston's in an interesting situation. They've got a really, really good defense. They've got two phenomenal edge players in Anderson and Hunter. They've got two really good corners, Stingley and Lassiter. The Lassiter has been phenomenal as a rookie. So their defense is really good. And they've got more players than that, too, but they're the ones people know about. But yet offensively, I don't think this game's going to be 35-30, but I think that they're going to have to score some. And Stroud's been up and down this year. I thought he made a couple of really good throws last week, but for the most part, he's working through his development. See, this is the other thing I find interesting. When people talk about these guys, it takes time. He had the great rookie year, so all of a sudden everybody assumed he's on his way to the Hall of Fame. This year, a couple of things started to stand out. He struggled a bit in the pocket when there were people around him. You saw last week that the offensive staff, they really built a beautiful game plan. Everything was quick rhythm, get the ball out, because that's who he is. At his core, he's a pocket quarterback who needs to play with timing and rhythm. But Steve Spagnuolo, there's not a better situational defensive play caller in the league, especially with pressure, than Spags. And that's going to be a really intriguing part of this game.
How does Kansas City look to you when you look at the film offensively? Because I see a passing attack that is really middle of the pack, and a run game that is almost the bottom five in football.
Yeah, they've become a team that's really not great on offense throughout four quarters. But in those critical, what we call high leverage situations, Mahomes seems to make a play. So they haven't necessarily scored a ton of points this year, but like I said, in those critical moments, they convert. I mean, keep one thing in mind. They are the best third down offense in the NFL. A lot of people might not know that, but they convert on third down. And that's absolutely critical. And they've really turned into, I don't want to say turned into, but Mahomes has, I think, the second most dropbacks of any quarterback in the league. And that might surprise people because this year, people aren't looking at the Chiefs going, man, that offense is just explosive. But yet they're a passing offense, even though they're not necessarily hitting 50, 60-yard plays. So, they're kind of an interesting team. And keep in mind, someone like Kelsey, who, a lot of people said didn't have a great year, and he didn't numbers-wise, he's going to have 25 days off. I mean, these guys are going to be rested and ready to go. They're going to be healthy.
Speaking of rested and ready to go and maybe getting a little healthier, I love the Detroit Lions offense, especially indoors, and it sounds like they're going to get David Montgomery back.
Yeah.
How does that change what they do? And going against a young Washington team, what do you see as kind of the pressure points in that game?
Yeah, I don't think it changes much of what they do other than the fact that Gibbs probably won't get 21 carries a game like he's got in the last 3 games. And boy, is that guy explosive. But just to show you how good, their O-line is, just like the Eagles' O-line, like Saquon Barkley leads the NFL in the fact that he's almost 75% of his yards have come, before contact. Same with Gibbs. He's in the 70% range. So that's remarkable. Those, the Lions have a great O-line. And Goff, he's a pocket quarterback, but they protect him, and he may throw the ball between the numbers. He's a window thrower, as good a window thrower as there is in the league. So that's going to be an interesting matchup against that secondary. Obviously, Marshawn Lattimore is now back playing. He's still a quality corner. But their offense is difficult because they can beat you so many different ways with a really good O-line and just good skill people.
I'm not asking you to put yourself in the minds of the voter or pretend you are a voter, but just watching the film this year, who do you think was the best offensive player that you saw on tape?
Oh, boy. That's one of those questions. The best offensive player.
Because you watched all the tape, and everyone wants to talk about who's the MVP, but I wanted to go to a film guy, Greg, a guy who actually sees it like I see it from an all-22 standpoint, and just see what you thought when you're looking at the tape. Who stands out as the most effective offensive player?
Boy, there's a lot of players in the league. I mean, I'm trying to look at the teams right now, as the best. Again, we're not necessarily talking about most valuable. We're not necessarily talking about, the best offensive play. I'll tell you, the guy that comes to my mind, and obviously he's a great player, so this might not be profound, but the guy that comes to my mind is Joe Burrow, and I'll tell you why. Because keep this in mind. When you go into a game every Sunday knowing that you have to put up 35 points just to have a chance to win, it's not even guaranteed that if you put up 35 you're going to win, but just to have a chance to win, I'm not sure people understand how hard that is. So given what he did this year under those circumstances, I would say that his name just came to my mind. Again, you're asking me a question that I don't have, an hour to think about, but that just came to my mind.
I like the answer.
Greg, are you an MVP voter?
I am not.
You're not. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not allowed to do any of that because I work for the league.
Got it.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. So
I'm not I can't be a Hall of Fame voter, although guys who vote for the Hall of Fame reach out to me to ask me my opinion, but I'm not allowed to be a Hall of Fame voter.
Okay. So you wouldn't even weigh in on Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen on the MVP race.
And to be honest with you guys, and I know fans might not like my answer, I don't care about that kind of stuff at all. Yeah, that's meaningless to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not surprised.
Surprised.
Yeah.
That's why I asked it the way I asked it, because I didn't want you to get into the popularity contest aspect of it, but I like the answer with Joe Burrow.
Just like I don't like when people, like I heard someone talking, because I'm on, I see social media. Obviously, I don't sit there all day and look at it, but I mean, I hear some stuff, and I hear people, saying things like, well, if Josh Allen loses this game, that's going to prove that he's really not that good, or, if Lamar loses this game, well, then people are going to say he can't win. So what does that, what does that mean? So does that mean the Bills should get rid of Josh Allen?
Yeah,
or the Ravens should get rid of Lamar Jackson?
Greg,
I mean, they say this stuff, and what does it even mean?
Greg, I'm moving on from the loser of this game.
No doubt.
I'm moving on.
Yep.
I'm out.
Yeah, I think they should just go to that quarterback store that I mentioned earlier and just, get another quarterback.
Yeah. Sam Darnold, free agent.
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay, there it is. Greg Cosell says pick up Sam Darnold and cut Josh Allen.
There you go. Right, exactly.
Right, perfect. Greg, thanks, man. Great to talk to you as always.
Guys, I love it. Thanks so much.
That was Greg Cosell, courtesy of the River Islands guest line, as all guests in 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line, River Islands in Lathrop. All right. Joe Chasky's fired up. Oh, hold on. Whoa, whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting an impromptu Joe Shasky. Use your other mic because that one's not potted up. Use the one you usually go to. All right. Do you need a mic cover? Here's one right here. I'm tossing it to you. Catch it. There you go. What do you got, Joe Shasky? It's an impromptu crossover.
I just don't understand why everything has to be absolutes.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes, as you know.
Exactly. But I don't understand it. Either you're
you understand?
You're either a Maserati or a broken down Honda Civic as a quarterback. And if you suggest anything in between, any middle ground, it's like you're a moron.
There's nuance to it, Joe Shasky.
No, you and I get that.
We're not a society of nuance, though. So you're surprised by people saying, hey, if Sam Darnold, after an amazing season, he has 2 bad games, and now he's a bum. He stinks. He's kaput. He's over. His career's over.
He had a magical season.
He had a great season.
I don't know where to slot him. He's certainly not in the top 10.
No, but he's not I think he's not a scrub.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, there used to be a thing called the middle class in America. And there used to be like...
Well, that doesn't exist.
I know. And there used to be things called a mid-sized minivan, for example. And now it's like, no, you either have a, 18-wheel SUV that's just guzzling diesel, or you have a tiny little, what are those tiny little Priuses that they literally look
smart cars?
They're like go-karts.
Yeah, the smart cars versus a Hummer is what you're saying.
It's just...
The Hummer's making a comeback.
Do you know how many freeway exits there are between those two options?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
An awful lot.
But even if you suggest it, Greg Cosell, he seems like a real jerk at a party. He'd be the last guy I would want to sit next to. He's just so condescending.
Why?
Because I think he thinks his stuff don't stink.
Well, I think he knows
met people like that.
I think he knows the film. So, in respect to Greg Cosell, when we're asking him to break down the film, he knows his blank don't stink because he's the best at it.
I think he's really weird.
Why?
Would you, if you were not...
That was a great interview with Willard.
If you were in a room full of people, Baldy was on one side and Greg Cosell was on the other, who do you think would want to hang out
I am going to talk to both of them at some point throughout the night. No, they know their craft. I'm going to pick their brain.
He doesn't have headphones.
I'm not saying that he's not informed. He's clearly informed. I'm just saying, why does it always have to come with a huge main course of condensation?
Condensation, like it's like water on a glass.
Condescending.
I don't even know what the word
condescension. I think that's what it is.
Condescension sensation.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, shout out literature, English, whatever you want to say.
Why can't you serve me my information without making me feel like a moron for suggesting some middle ground?
Well, I didn't feel moronic after listening to him. Do you feel that way, Joe? When you listen to Greg Cosell, you think he's speaking down to you?
I think Greg has tremendous information.
He does.
The way he delivers it makes me not like him.
Okay. You know what? That is you. That is you. That is your truth.
I'm not trying to rip Greg Cosell.
No. You just said he just said he's condescending.
No, am I wrong?
Well, I don't feel that way. I feel like he is very knowledgeable at the subject.
I'm going to say yes.
He is knowledgeable. But I grant you that.
He protects himself a lot when he gives out this information. So he'll say, this is what I see, but I don't know what this defense was trying to do.
Which is totally fair.
So, he protects himself a lot.
But does he know what he's doing?
I do.
He's literally parading around America, giving opinions about the teams, and the people that are listening want to hear, give me a slight bit of opinion. You don't think ever, he's a byproduct of the system. Does anyone stink?
Well, that's his thing. He doesn't he only says what he sees on the film. He can give some opinion, but it's going to be guarded too. He's not going to be the hot take artist.
Did you imagine he's breaking down film of Alan Smailagic? He's a byproduct of the system. It's a functionality of the Steph Curry offense with Steve Kerr. It's no, he kind of stinks. It's okay. It's okay. We can. So some guys stink. Some guys aren't that good. Someone's in the middle. What? I don't know. I find it very condescending. Just serve it to me.
More of that's going to come up at 6:00 on the morning roast. That's Joe Shasky. He's going to be joining Bonte Hill at the top of the hour. But coming up next, we'll react to more of the condescension of one Greg Cosell and more NFL playoffs on the pregame show. Joe Spadoni.
Are you a plumber, steam fitter, or HVAC?
compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Bay Area, this is Jonathan Kuminga. You're listening to the Pregame Show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
Sunday, we got college football national championship on Monday. Can't wait. So excited. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I don't have a dog in the fight. My dad grew up loving Notre Dame. Catholic guy. That if you're a Catholic back then, I guess you had to root for Notre Dame. I guess it was a prerequisite. Always hated Ohio State. Couldn't stand him. He literally would say the chant as it's still in my head. I can still hear my dad, the great Robert Spadoni. Oh, how I hate Ohio State. It's literally all he would say. He would always root against them and any team from Texas he was not a fan of. Which I guess if you're from the Bay Area, that kind of makes sense. You don't like Dallas, you don't like any of those teams, right? And then he hated USC. So yeah, he was a Bay Area fan, born and bred. But for some reason rooted for a team that's based in Indiana because of the Pope or something. But nonetheless, I'm hoping it's a good game on Monday, and we'll break that down and preview it on MLK Day, which is next week. And by the way, that's going to be a great day of sports, because not only do we have that, but the appetizer for that main course is going to be Warriors Celtics. So it's the Dubs against the defending champs at Chase Center. Can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. We got Jordan Poole coming back tomorrow as the worst team in the NBA is coming to Chase Center, the Washington Wizards. But you know what? Jordan Poole's been playing pretty well. Pretty good. Not well. I did the Larry David one. Right? Come on. But yeah, we got a great course of sports this week, and I can't wait. And we just did the replay of Greg Cosell, who joined Willard and Dibbs a couple days ago, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. And, it's been all Warriors here the last 48 hours. So I wanted to get, cleanse the palate, if you will, of all of us as we're going back to our food analogies. A nice brie, if you will. Gorgonzola is a little strong this time of the day at 5:35 a.m., but a nice brie maybe. Cleanse the palate and talk some football. And, Joe Shasky came in here. He has feelings about Greg Cosell and how he delivers the information. He's very knowledgeable, but he doesn't care for how he delivers the information. Thinks he's very condescending was the word he used. And a lot of people on the text line agree at 888-957-9570. They did not appreciate how he breaks down the film. Now, listen, I think he's just very matter of fact. And sometimes that bothers some people. Sometimes, like me, it doesn't bother me at all. Very matter of fact. He watches the film. I'm not a big film watcher. Like, I'll watch the games inside and out, but I'm not recording it and going back and rewatching it. Now, if there's a specific play, yeah, like an important play or two or three, sure. Those will probably be on social. They'll probably be on YouTube, and I can go back and find those plays and rewatch them. But the entire game, the all 22, inside and out, that's not my style. That's not how I consume the sports. You can say, oh, well, you need to be in the lab more, Spadoni. You need to work on your game, brush it up. That's not fun for me. I don't enjoy doing that. Now, Greg Cosell, he enjoys doing that. Shasky, Bonte, that's their thing. They love that stuff. It's not for me, and that's okay. But I do appreciate how he is able to speak so matter-of-factly, and he doesn't crush these guys, because they ask for his opinion occasionally, and he'll give it, but he'll always have a caveat. He's like, well, I can, say this, but I don't know what they were trying to do on offense or defense. I can't tell you what was in the coach's mind or what was in the cornerbacks or the linebackers or the quarterback, anyone. I can't tell you what they were thinking in that moment. No, you can't, but give us your opinion on what you think they saw. So he guards himself, and you know what? I I commend guys like Greg Cosell because he's not taking the bait. There's an easy bait to take, and I take it, we all take it. We jump with it. That's kind of the hot take society we live in, right? Like he was alluding to in that interview, CJ Stroud. Well, if you looked at his rookie season and compare him to now, you think, he took a significant step back. He struggled. I thought he was going to be a Hall of Famer after his rookie year. No. He's like, he's still becoming an elite quarterback. Just because he had a great rookie season, just like we're seeing with Jaden Daniels this year. Again, don't be shocked if Jaden Daniels has a CJ Stroud sophomore type of slump because the league adjusts. It's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows. I mean, the Houston Texans were the worst team in the NFL. The Washington Commanders, worst team in the NFL. Worst to playoffs. Both of them. In the Texans' case, it was worst to first in their division. Like, it doesn't come that easy. Like, the Bears and Caleb Williams, that's usually kind of what happens. And Caleb showed some flashes this year. And by the way, speaking of Twitter fingers, shout out Steph Curry. There's like this Twitter war going on right now between the Chicago Bears fan base and the Las Vegas Raiders fan base in regards to Ben Johnson. And it's just so funny because they're trying to, Bears fans are upset right now because all like the insiders, the Rappaports, the Schefters, everyone's linking Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Oh, it's picking up steam. It's picking up steam. And Ben Johnson is supposed to be on a silver platter for the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams and that offense and Roma Dunze. And, we're getting Ben Johnson. And now it seems like maybe they're going to get Mike McCarthy instead. And so Bears fans are now turning on Ben Johnson and saying, yeah, we never actually wanted Ben Johnson. If he actually takes the Raiders job, actually, he's an idiot. And we're glad we're not getting a guy like that. So there's this whole beef between which franchise is actually in worse shape. It's really quite something to behold. It's like that meme where those two girls are fighting and you got the other person on the ground with like their camera phone or whatever it is, just saying, oh, this is great. Can't get enough. That's me right now. It's all so silly. But I will say this in regards to the Ben Johnson thing and the future hiring. If Tom Brady really has that much cachet within the ownership, things might just change within the Las Vegas Raiders organization. Things might change for the better finally. If he is somehow able, Tom Brady that is, to put those rings on the table, or on Zoom, I guess in this case, but he'll be seeing Ben Johnson this weekend. That's a fact, because he's going to be calling the game for Fox alongside Kevin Burkhardt, and Commanders-Lions is going to be on Fox tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in Detroit. Cannot wait for that game. And he'll be chopping it up. And he's going to, be sneaking in a little, hey, Ben, I've won 7 of these things. You want to come win a few more with the Raiders? The silver and black? Vegas is nice this time of year. It's not Detroit. It's not Chicago. Vegas is nice. Like, if he's able to do that and it works, I mean, that would be the best hire the Raiders have had since who? Young John Gruden? Yeah, and I said young because old John Gruden, yikes. Like, definitely better than Del Rio, Callahan, Dennis Allen, McDaniels, Pierce, all of them. Art Shell. I'm missing someone in there. Tom Cable, Hugh Jack City. Like, all of them. So that is a fascinating storyline here, but I just thought it was hilarious how both the franchises were trying to dump on each other and saying who's worse, who's this. I think the Raiders have 4 playoff wins to the Bears 3 since 2000. Both of them have a trip to the Super Bowl and lost. It's just, they're both inept. And you know why? It comes back to ownership. So if Tom Brady is able to actually change the ways of the ownership within the Las Vegas Raiders, because now he's a part of it, he's able to take a lot of that off of Mark Davis's plate, then you know what? Leg up to the Raiders over the Bears, because they're at least trying something new. And they cleaned house, and you say, hey, Ben, you want to bring in your own GM, or we're going to hire at the same time? Let's do it. The Bears, they're keeping Ryan Poles, and maybe that's just going to prevent them from getting Ben Johnson. We'll see. We'll dive into these playoff matchups on the other side, though. Texans, Chiefs, Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles, Ravens, Bills. Any of you guys got locks this weekend? over-unders, spreads, whatever, money lines, whatever you like. Hit me up, 888-957-9570 as we wrap up the pregame show. Joe Spadoni on the other side of 95.7 The Game.
Sports at the Art Museum. Sports at the Art Museum. I'm not saying wear your gym shorts. Hey, why not? Downtown, top floor, greatness on display. Like football's first helmet and the black and red shoes that sparked a rebellion. Ooh.
Pregame Show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
Brandon with an eye. No, not looking like it. Yeah, we'll see. Oh, his nickname is AirPods? Have you heard that one, Sam? AirPods? That's pretty good.
Yeah, I've heard that pop up.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess I'm just...
You know, like when he shoots the ball and it misses the rim and it's air.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a 4. That's a Football Friday, Payday Friday 4, because we're feeling good on this Friday. Is that enough F words for you? 888-957-9570. Ones that I can't say. We're talking NFL playoffs over the weekend. Playoffs. We got Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow, 1:30. Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. 8.5 points. That's a lot. I know the Texans are limited offensively. They lost a lot of their weapons. Stephon Diggs out for the year. Nico Collins out for the year. I don't know. Man. 888-957-9570. I want to know people's locks this weekend. What is your lock of this weekend? It could be a spread. It could be just a straight up win, the money line. It could be an over-under. The over-under on Chiefs-Texans is 41.5. That's not a lot of points. I guess I would lean under there because just what the Chiefs haven't scored 30 points all season long, but you know what? They're healthy and they're at home. Both these defenses are really good, though. I mean, Chiefs' best defense in the NFL by far. And the Texans, and it's going to come down to me, Azeez Al-Shire and his status, because if he misses this game, and he had a couple of DNPs this week during practice, that's going to be a huge loss for them if he can't go tomorrow. Now, I'd expect him to. Obviously, Azeez Al-Shire, former San Francisco 49er, former Tennessee Titan, I should say. He obviously got suspended earlier in the season. He plays kind of like Dre Greenlaw. He plays on the edge. The Niners are kind of missing him right now. I mean, they had Fred Warner, they had Drake Greenlaw, they just had a plethora of riches, and they had Azeez Al-Shire backing him up. So they couldn't pay everyone. So someone had to go, and Azeez Al-Shire went, and he's been tremendous for the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans, in that defense all season long. So I'd lean under here, and I think the Texans cover the 8.5. I know a lot of people are thinking blowout, the Chiefs blowout. I'm going cover here. Cover charge. I like the Chiefs to advance, though. Chiefs are inevitable. They're Thanos. Yes, of all the matchups this weekend, I would be shocked the most if the Houston Texans won. I think that would be the most wow. Because right now it's 8.5 and 8.5 is the spread in Detroit as well for the Commanders-Lions game. So both the Chiefs and the Lions, both number 1 seeds in the NFC and AFC respectively, are 8.5-point favorites. But I think the Texans have a better chance of covering. I think a lot of people would say the Commanders there. I'm skeptical on the Commanders' offense in this one, which I don't think I would have said 3 weeks ago. But given what Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, has been able to do, both against their division rival for the number 1 overall seed, right, against the Minnesota Vikings, what they've been able to do the last few weeks has been incredible to me. Obviously, they didn't play last week. They had the bye, but they got the rest. Might be getting some players back. I think they're going to throw some exotic looks at the rookie. And don't be surprised if Jaden Daniels said, oh, wow, he kind of looks like a rookie in this game. I wouldn't be surprised. That being said, I'm hoping for a shootout. I'm hoping for something exciting. I just think the Detroit Lions are going to do what they've done all season long. They're going to lean on Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to lean on the running game. set up to play action pass. And Ben Johnson, as we were talking about last segment, is going to flex his muscles and say, yeah, I should be the number one head coaching candidate in the NFL right now. And I think the Detroit Lions roll against the Washington Commanders. Then he brings us to Sunday. Sunday. Rams, Eagles. Eagles are 6-point favorites. They're almost a touchdown favorite at home against LA. Is LA that much further behind them? Like, I know. Hey, listen, this is a guy that picked Eagles Chiefs prior to the season for my Super Bowl matchup. And I'm sticking to that. So I'd take the Eagles here. I don't know if I'm taking the points, though. 6 points is a lot right now. Just given what I've seen from the Rams, Matt Stafford, McVay, come playoff time, they're a tough out. They're a very tough out. And again, I gave the stat yesterday on the Morning Roast. In Sean McVay's career as head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, in the playoffs, there's never been a 100-yard rusher against the Rams. So, doesn't mean that Saquon can't have a good day. Just, take that for what it's worth. They will try to take away the best weapon, that tells me. And Saquon Barkley is the Eagles' best weapon offensively. Now, it's pick your poison. I think this is going to be a Jalen Hurts game. I do. I think Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown are going to have some big-time connections in this because I do think that Rams secondary is vulnerable. I do. Now, they got some great edge rushers. They got great defensive line depth. Verse, Fisk. I like to call him Wilson Fisk. Shout out Kingpin, because that's kind of what he reminds me of. By the way, Daredevil coming back, the series on Disney+. Never really a big Daredevil guy, going to be honest. Even the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner one. I thought Colin Farrell was a solid bullseye. It's not for me. A super hearing, I'm not going to, denigrate the blind community. I don't want to get canceled. But he was just a whatever superhero for me. Punisher's cooler. Doesn't even have a superpower. He just loves a lot of guns. He got vengeance. Ex-Marine. Thomas Jane. Always my Punisher, by the way. Although, John Bernthal. It's really good, too. 888-957-9570 as we segue a little bit into Marvel. So, I like the Eagles. Don't know if they'll cover, but I like the Eagles to win. And brings us to our penultimate game of the weekend. 3:30 Sunday, Bills, Ravens in Buffalo. Bills are the home dogs here. And this is a coin flip for me. This might be one of those last possession wins it sort of deals. And they got snow on the horizon. And I think the difference in this game is going to be the acquisition, the potentially biggest acquisition of the offseason outside of Saquon Barkley. It's Derrick Henry. I mean, what Derrick Henry has done this season is amazing. And the only reason we're not talking about it more is because of Saquon Barkley. Derrick Henry, let me just pull up his stats right now. He's been unreal. This guy is 31 years old, and he's getting better. That doesn't happen for running backs. 325 rushes for 1,921 yards and 16 touchdowns. This guy's been unreal. By the way, he's only been first-team All-Pro once. Listen, he won the Heisman. I think McCaffrey should have won, but I always go back to this. That might be the best first and second place, go my talent from college to the NFL. The best tandem to finish first and second place in the Heisman Trophy, just given their NFL careers. Like Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey are Hall of Famers. That doesn't happen. Like Mark Ingram and Toby Gerhart was a similar situation, right? You go to Alabama and Stanford, running backs. Like Mark Ingram was good. He was good. Toby Gerhart didn't do anything. Now, I'm sure there's other ones. I'm sure there's quarterbacks that I'm missing. I'm sure there's you go, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, right? Randy Moss. And there was Ryan Leaf in there too. Those are 3 Hall of Famers in the voting there. And then Ryan Leaf. I get it. That's a really good one. But of the last 20 years, let's say that, because I think that was, 98, 99? Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey, probably the best tandem of those Heisman Trophy winner and runner-up that I've seen translate to the NFL in quite some time. So, 888-957-9570. We got about a minute 30 left, as Joe Shasky points out, Charmed on the TV. Yeah, we do love some Charmed. Shout out the 90s. God, you know what's crazy? The anniversary this Sunday, because it's the divisional round, it'll be 24 years this Sunday since the Tuck rule. 24 years this Sunday since the Tuck rule between the Patriots and Raiders. It's just, that's one of the games you'll never forget. I was 8 years old when it happened, and I'll never forget it. My dad, I don't think he's recovered to this day. It's one of those calls that changed quite literally the landscape of football forever. And fast forward 24 years later, Tom Brady obviously winning his first Super Bowl that year, wins 6 more after that, and now he is part of the ownership of the Las Vegas Raiders, not the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. If you would have said that 24 years ago, hey, you see this quarterback that's about to go on this tear? Yeah, he's going to be part of the Raiders ownership, and they're going to be in Las Vegas. If you told me that 24 years ago, like, what are you talking about? And exactly, it'll go to 9 Super Bowls, Joe Shasky. It's crazy. It's crazy. You know what else is crazy? Morning Roast. It's crazy good. And I can't wait for it. It's coming up next. Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky, 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.